Dr. Strangelove is the 1964 comedy satire directed by Stanley Kubrick, making his return to the podcast after last week's Paths of Glory episode. Starring Peter Sellers in a trio of highly acclaimed roles, alongside George C. Scott, we're going to get into this highly acclaimed classic this week on the Golden Hour Film Podcast. Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of the Golden Hour Film Podcast. I am joined by my co-host, not guest host, Harry Bailey. Obviously, Harry, we covered Stanley Kubrick on the podcast last week.
Yep.
Paths of Glory. How many Stanley Kubrick films have you seen, actually, just out of interest?
9, I think. Off the top of my head, 9, I think.
Yeah,
let me see. I've seen Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. I've seen Paths of Glory. I have seen Fear and Desire, which isn't very good. I have seen A Clockwork Orange. I have seen The Shining. I have seen The Killing. I have seen Full Metal Jacket. I have seen 2001: A Space Odyssey. I think I've seen more than 8. I think I'm missing one. I thought I had seen 9.
No, smarter than me.
No, I think I have. No, I've only seen 8. Yeah, I've only seen 8. Because I was meant to watch The Killer's Kiss today, and that would have been 9. But then I got stuck for time, so I ended up not watching it.
Nice.
But yeah, I've seen 8 Stanley Kubrick films. Still got Barry Lyndon, which Criterion are doing a 4K of, which I'm going to wait until that comes out before I watch it. Eyes Wide Shut, which I don't know, I've never watched it. I think it's just because it's got a slightly long runtime, and it's not like a film that I've ever been like, oh, I want to watch Eyes Wide Shut tonight. I feel like that'll be one where I have like a day off work and I squeeze it in. Spartacus is literally 3 hours long.
Yeah.
So I will have to really want to watch Spartacus. I've heard it's amazing. But again, if like a big 4K or something comes out of that, I'll watch it. I like owning long movies on 4K. I think it's more enjoyable. And then Lolita, I need to see, and Killer's Kiss.
Yeah, it's more than me, and I definitely haven't seen it.
Yes, they're the 5 I need to see.
Yeah, like I've seen Full Metal Jacket a comical amount of times. I used to watch that as a kid, all the time. Like it would be constantly on in my sitting room. It's crazy. I'm talking when I was like 8.
Just misunderstood the Mickey Mouse song, obviously.
No, I'm talking when I was like 8 or 9 years old. It was so funny. How many times I've seen that even as a kid. I should not be watching it that early, but anyway, it is what it is. Yeah, no, Dr. Strangelove, or to give it its full title, as you just said, Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. So quite long-winded, and I think even that title is perfect in that it's just so long-winded that it just kind of sets up what kind of a film it's going to be straight away. It's not simple. But yeah, obviously Stanley Kubrick, funny enough, started off kind of wanting to make a satire. Not a satire. I want to make up a straight-up drama about kind of accidental nuclear war. But then he realised as he was kind of writing it, a lot of scenes that he was writing were kind of funny, so he just leant into that, and he obviously got some help with the script, and etc. And obviously Peter Sellers, when you bring Peter Sellers on board, comedic assassin that he was, your friend was very much going to go down one way. And he initially was meant to play 4 roles actually, but he, funny enough, right, Steve Coogan played this role on stage here in Ireland a few months ago. Guy I work with actually went to go and see it. Steve Coogan did play 4 roles, the 4th role being the one that he didn't play in the film, Peter Sellers. The 4th role being the army general, the army pilot. And obviously then he couldn't really do a southern accent, so they ended up obviously recasting the role. But yeah, I mean, the 3 roles that he has are just so iconic. So
yeah, and as well, the guy who plays King Kong, which is the name of
Slim
the
Pickens
pilot. Yeah, Slim Pickens, who was like a rodeo.
Yeah.
What do you call them? Like a rodeo
cowboy, maybe, or
yeah. He performed in the El Rodeo, so he did. So yeah, it was a very fitting role, shall we say, for him.
It's very funny performance as well. Just a naturally kind of ridiculous accent. So sorry to anyone with a similar accent that we're watching, but I love the fact that it is just kind of absurd enough to make it kind of stand out and just be what it needs to be. I know I mentioned in last week's podcast. So Steven Spielberg has said that Stanley Kubrick films to him do tend to grow on you as the more you watch them, the more often you watch them. And I did really enjoy this the first time I watched it. But I have to say, based on this evidence, I think he's absolutely spot on, because I was cackling with laughter throughout this film. I absolutely adored it on the second viewing. How about you, Harry?
Yeah, I'm the exact same. I really, 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 really liked it the first time I saw it, and this time round I preferred it. Yeah, there's a lot of things that maybe you pick up on the second time round because you know what you're getting yourself into. So many simple things are absolutely hilarious. Like some things are far more in your face than others, like General Jack D. Ripper, and just the amount
So
of
stupid.
machine gun fire in front of signs that say "Peace is our profession" is hilarious. But then there's other stuff that's just so funny. There's so many great lines in this. There's no fighting in the war room is
So
amazing.
genius.
Such a good line. George C. Scott is so good in this film as well.
The funny thing about
His obsession with the big board is just
that's so funny. The funny thing about that
he's
is
just obsessed with that big board.
he hated his performance. He hated, actually, specifically, easy for me to say, specifically, he hated that Kubrick wanted him to go broader and more absurd with his takes. He thought he was going too far with it. So he actually hated the performance when he first saw it, but then as he got older, he grew and realised just how funny he was. I love that, because like the character shouldn't know he's being absolutely ridiculous. So like it's a very broad comedic performance, but the character should feel like so important to the character. So I can understand why he, in the immediate kind of moment, would kind of think that maybe he's going too far, but then as with the benefit of time, let's say, I love the fact that he did appreciate just how funny he is in this film, because he's so funny. That scene,
He's
like you
got
said,
so many good lines. The other one as well is obviously the whole point of this film is that General Jack D. Ripper, who is like just a general, has basically managed to manipulate the system that he is orchestrated a nuclear attack on Russia, and there's nothing anyone can do about it.
At the height
And
of the
everyone's in
Cold
the
War,
war
of course.
room trying to figure out everyone in the war room is trying to figure out how to pull them back.
Yeah.
But to begin with, anyway, Bucky, the character played by George C. Scott, isn't that upset at the idea of nuking Russia. He hates communists, and he literally says, like there'll never be a better opportunity for us to go to war with them, you know. But like, you know, worst case scenario, there'll be no more than 10 to 20 million killed tops, depending on the breaks.
So bleak, yeah.
Just that depending on the breaks is so funny. But he's got so many good lines.
But I love the way we first meet him. He's clearly having an affair with his secretary. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's relieving his bells, let's say, for YouTube purposes. I'm not sure exactly how I can say that, but so she's relaying this like genuinely like matter of life and death call, because they obviously want to relay this information about what General Jack D. Ripper, again amazing, what he's just done. So she's relaying this to him while he is again relieving himself. So just that in itself is brilliantly comedic. And then once we get into the actual war room, he gets a phone call. I'm laughing now.
Yeah, he gets a phone call from her. Like he gets a call to work, but he gets a call to his phone in the war room. As well. There's another thing as well, where he gets told that they've done attack plan R or whatever it's called. Basically nuke Russia, but a general gets to be in charge. And he's like, well, what's the threat alert? Our radars are saying that there's absolutely no threat. Right, okay, I'll mosey on up to the war room. Just change it to threat level red. And then he hangs up the phone. This, like, without any information or anything, just change it to threat level red. And then he hangs up the phone. It's so great. But yeah, again, it's funny as well. To begin with, it doesn't seem as though the president is as much of a parody as the rest of the characters. It's more of a slow burn with his character, and then he becomes more and more nonsensical.
Ridiculous.
Which is real early on. George C. Scott's character Bucky gets a real good line in, where he's like, attack plan R, and the president's like, what, attack plan R? Remind me of that one again. And he's like, you know, the plan where a general gets full authorization over nuclear weapons if the chain of command is in any way disrupted. don't you remember that? No, I don't remember. He's like, you signed that one, President. No, I don't remember that one. But then as he goes on, it just becomes funnier and funnier. He just keeps calling the head of Russia, the president of Russia. He's like, "Hey, Dmitry, me again." And it just gets more and more absurd. So funny.
That scene where
Peter Sellers is amazing in
he's
this.
such an assassin. That scene, and again, you never hear or see the Russian president Dmitry, the Russian premier, let's call him. But the fact, like, he just feels like such a fully fleshed out character, even still.
Yeah.
And that's because of Peter Sellers on the phone. He's so amazing as the American president. There's that scene where he's saying, "I'm really sorry about this, Dmitry. I'm really sorry," and he's like, "Well, don't say you're more sorry than me, Dmitry. I'm just as capable of being as sorry as you are, Dmitry. So we're both as sorry as you are." It's complete.
So good.
It's completely absurd. It's just it's so funny. It's so well written, and again, Peter Sellers.
Yeah.
Keep going on about him. But
With all those conversations between, is it Muffley? Is that his name? President Muffley? Between President Muffley and the Premier, Kissov. Between the two of them.
So stupid.
It's built up so much that then whenever this one random guy picks up the phone and he's like, it's Kissov, he's hopping mad. It's just like they've totally built the Premier of Russia up, even though you never see him, you never even hear him. It's so funny, so great. But again, it's not just silly humor. There's a lot of intelligent humor in this.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But one of the funniest things is basically whenever they hear that the Russians have invented this doomsday device where if they get nuked, it sets off nukes everywhere. Yeah. The Americans at first are absolutely appalled. They're like, how could they possibly set up such a thing? As you can see in the background, their planes are all flying with nukes towards Russia on the big board behind them. And they're just like gobsmacked. They're like, how could a country possibly do something like this? It's insane.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so funny. There's a lot of I definitely agree in a second view, and you pick up on more things because there's a lot of things in the background that make the jokes funnier or enhance lines. As well, Mandrake, one of Sellers' other characters, is so good. His interactions with Jack D. Ripper are so funny. And honestly, not to get too political or anything, but their conversations, it is hilarious watching that in 2025 that people are still like that. It is this film has never been, it's so ahead of its time, but this film has never been more relevant. There's a whole scene where Jack D. Ripper is going on about fluoride and how basically
he started this whole war.
One person on Letterboxd someone on Letterboxd said he started the whole war because of post-nut clarity. Basically It's
funny.
So good. So unbelievably good. Like, it's a film that parodies people who are currently in power, even though the film came out in the 60s. It's that ahead of its time. It's so genius. It's so, all the characters are so layered that you could probably apply their parodying of whoever it was at the time or whoever it was in between now and then. Like, their characters are so layered in so many ways that they will probably forever be a parody of someone who's in power. But just particularly now, a lot of parodying of current people, shall we say. Lot of accuracy.
Obviously, this was an early role for
James. In the 60s.
Yeah, obviously this was an early role for James Earl Jones, but I do want to mention Sterling Hayden as well, who's obviously an actor that Kubrick had worked with before on The Killing, who's really good in that. He is. But yeah, I think the way he's shot in this, like, there's a lot of Dutch angles, and he's constantly smoking, and just that kind of deep voice he has does give it the kind of, even though what he's saying and what he's doing is completely absurd, he does kind of give it a groundedness that it needs. You can actually tell that
there's
this
a level of legitimacy there. Yeah,
you can tell that this guy has just lost his mind. It's kind of sad in a way, like he clearly has just lost his mind. So at no point does it ever feel like too much of a stretch to think that this is what he would obviously go on to do. But yeah, and then that scene where, like you say, he's talking about the fluoride, and then he goes and shoots himself. Then follow that up with the Coca-Cola scene where he's
so good.
So funny.
I beg that was a product placement. That would be amazing if that like, if it is, it would be one of the most amazing instances of product placement actually working.
Mandrake is trying to call the president on a collect call from a payphone.
Yeah. And he doesn't have enough change for it.
Yeah, and then the guy,
Yeah.
a guy from obviously Jack D. Ripper's kind of staff, obviously knows he's gone stark rating.
Yeah.
But he thinks Mandrake
Well,
is in on
it's
it.
one of the guys. So it's actually so basically, the first thing that the president does is order troops to go to Jack D. Ripper's base so they can get him on the phone.
Yeah,
And Jack D. Ripper convinces everyone at his own base that the communists are going to
Oh,
come and
yeah.
kill them all.
that's true.
Which again, there is such a funny line when they all pull up, and one of the guys is like, "Wow, those communist jeeps look just like our jeeps."
That's funny.
And the other guys goes, "Yep, they imitate the real thing real good, don't they?" And then they just open fire on their own troops. And this whole battle goes on with all these pieces our profession signs in the background, and it's shot like a war documentary.
Oh, yeah, no, that's one.
But eventually, as well, to keep off the grass sign, hilarious. But eventually, Jack D. Ripper's men all retreat. So the president's men do manage to get in, but by the time they get there, yeah, Jack D. Ripper, who is the only person who has the code to the prefix to get through to the planes to call off the bombs, he realizes that they're going to try and torture him, or he thinks anyway that they're going to try and torture him for these codes. So he dies with the codes. But yeah, as a result, the president's men kind of rock up and they take Sellers' character Mandrake, and they think that this guy basically thinks that he's coordinated this whole conspiracy theory instead.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately he ends up trying to get the president on the phone and doesn't have enough change. So he sends your man over to the Coca-Cola machine and tells him to shoot the Coca-Cola machine to get change. And he turns to him and he's like, "But that's private property, man." And he's like, "I need the president. There's a nuclear war is about to start."
It's so stupid.
Yeah, it's so good. So great.
And then the scene then when Dimitri calls back, because it turns out one of the planes hasn't been shot down, which is the one we've been following all along.
Yeah, with James Earl Jones and
James
King
Earl,
Kong.
Yeah, and Dimitri, we don't hear obviously, but Dimitri's kind of going kind of mad on the phone, and then you just get the president. Dimitri, there's no point in getting hysterical at a time like this. It's so funny.
Yeah. And as well, I'm aware that they're flying too low for your radar and stuff, but I just call that initiative.
It's so funny.
So
That's what
good.
they're trained to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's so good.
And
There's
then-
so many good lines.
And then we finally meet Dr. Strangelove himself, who it's heavily hinted was in fact a member of obviously the Nazi party. He was in fact a member of inner circle.
It's very funny.
So yeah, he says that there is such a thing as a doomsday device, and then there's such a thing as obviously an underground bunker where you could last for 100 years, and then he's going through this whole insane spiel about, so if you have 10 men and then one woman as a ratio, and then obviously
Yeah.
breeding and stuff like this, which is eugenics and it's such crazy shit like he gets into.
Yeah.
But then the whole thing with the arm is just so brilliant, so funny.
Great. So funny.
So funny.
And the fact that he calls the president his Führer at one point as well is so
My
funny.
Führer.
And nobody notices it. Basically, one of the big jokes there is because Bucky is so obsessed that the Russian ambassador's there and he doesn't want him taking pictures of the big board. There's this blatant Nazi in the room who's like literally putting his arm up and calling the president the Führer and stuff. And he's so fixated on this ambassador. And then like at one point he goes, "Strangelove. Interesting name, isn't it?" And then the guy goes, "Oh yeah, he translated it from whatever.
The
It's a
most
very
German
obviously
sounding
German
name
name."
ever,
Yeah. And he's like, "Huh, go figure." But then he's just obsessed again with the ambassador in the background. He just wanted to take a picture of the big board. Yeah.
And what would you have if the film does end with all this bickering going on and like these guys in rooms just trying to figure out what the future looks like? Well, there is not going to be any future because nuclear destruction does in fact cause the end of the world.
Yeah, the lads on the plane, King Kong, basically when they get shot, it damages parts of the plane, one of which being the doors for the bomb. So King Kong hops on the nuke because he needs to fix the panel above it. So he sits on top of the nuke as he's fixing it. He fixes it, and then the nuke drops and he's on it. But he was wearing a cowboy hat the whole time, so he takes it off and he treats it like a rodeo bull. It is one of the best shots probably in all of Kubrick's filmography. It's so class. Just the silence in the background as he yelps and cheers as he's basically treating it like a rodeo bull until it hits the ground. Nuclear bomb goes off. And then give it a few minutes as the lads are all bickering, and Strangelove convinces them all to have a master race in the bunker, and they're all like, "Yeah, sounds good to me."
Yeah, no, they're all fully in on
they're
board
all
with
so
that.
oblivious to it. And then, the song "We'll Meet Again" starts playing as nukes just go off all across the world. The doomsday device has been triggered, and everyone dies. The end. Class film. Unbelievable.
So funny.
Yeah, one of the best satires ever made.
Yeah, I would even probably say my favorite satire ever made. Just appreciate it so much more in a second movie, and I did really enjoy it the first time around. But like you said, I think you get so much more out of it on a second viewing once you know where it's going, and you have time to kind of take in all of the jokes, because actually it's way more jam packed with jokes than I remembered first time around. From the little details to just the way, again, Peter Sellers, I'm going to say it again, but comedic assassin that he was, like, 3 such different roles, but he's so funny in each of them. Like, I couldn't really pick a favourite, to be honest with you. But again, Sterling Hayden's so hilarious. George C. Scott, it's probably my favourite performance of his. Well, it's up there certainly. Like, he's definitely done more dramatic work in this, but I mean, I love the fact that this is like so much of a departure from what he usually did, but it's still so funny. Yeah, it's such a funny satire. I gave it 4.5 on this round. Yeah, properly loved it. How about you?
Yeah, unbelievable film. Absolutely hilarious. Unbelievably fitting to watch it in 2025. We are recording this well in advance, so God knows what's happened in the news in between recording this and this episode coming out. But unbelievably fitting film. There is no fighting in the war room. I gave it 4.5 stars. One of the best satires ever made. It is so great. Kubrick is a master. I can't wait to cover more Kubrick films on the podcast. 100%. But in the meantime, we are going to talk about a few films from the 1950s that we might want to discuss on the podcast. And then we are going to announce next month's arc, which should be a fun one. But in the meantime, Shane, films from the 50s, what do you want us to cover? Or what do you want to throw out there into the ether? And we'll see who in the audience in the comment section picks up what. Recommend us a few films, obviously, but let us know out of these ones as well which ones you would like us to cover on the podcast, because we do appreciate your feedback.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we get this up. Yeah, so Alfred Hitchcock film, I think that we've both seen, but I think North by Northwest might be one of his most obviously acclaimed
fair
works. So if we ever get around to covering Hitchcock again, who knows, maybe we will quite soon, but
we just jab them in every month these days.
Yeah, so I'm sure it'll come around at some point that we cover North by Northwest, but that's like, I think in a way of that kind of wrong man, obviously type that Hitchcock made so much of. I think that's one of his very, very best, and obviously Cary Grant, that is his very, very best. So yeah, Anatomy of a Murder, which I know we've both seen as well, from Otto Preminger. That's
so class.
That's an incredible film.
So great.
Probably my favourite courtroom drama I've ever seen. Just an amazing performance from Jimmy Stewart. An amazing film. Mr. Arcade, or Mr. Arcade, I'm not sure exactly how it's pronounced, but that's an Orson Welles film. Obviously, that he considered, I think, to be one of his very best films. So that's definitely something I kind of want to get around to for a while. So as I always say, this podcast is a great excuse to do that. The Caine Mutiny. I know you haven't seen this, but the Caine Mutiny is Humphrey Bogart in one of his very, very best roles. So I know they made a remake of this, starring, if I'm not mistaken, Kiefer Sutherland, and directed by the late William Friedkin a couple of years ago, actually. But this is obviously the original, and yeah, he's great in this. It also has Fred McMurray, who's been on the podcast a couple of times, has Van Johnson, so it's a really good cast. But yeah, essentially it's again playing a ship captain. Funny enough, Bogart played a lot of ship captains throughout his career. It's kind of funny, but yeah, he played another such instance of him playing a ship captain, essentially kind of, yeah, maybe going through some psychological difficulties, and maybe reality and his perception of reality is starting to kind of lose maybe his grip on that. And it's a really, really interesting performance from Bogart. I think he does a lot of things that maybe you wouldn't necessarily expect him to do. So that's a really good choice. Ace in the Hole. I'm going to talk about my boy Billy Wilder once again here on the podcast. Ace in the Hole.
Not seen it yet. Yeah.
Yeah, once again. Obviously, Kirk Douglas covered him on the podcast last week with Path to Glory, but he's really good in the role. And it's just a scathing satire of journalism and of the kind of, in a way, the kind of clicks and the kind of just this kind of modern day, like everyone's just looking for the clicks, everyone's just looking for the views. I hope we're not like that. I don't think we're like that, but way too many people are like that in kind of mainstream press and in even alternative press and stuff. They sensationalize stuff because they kind of want clicks and views, and they want the money and the fame and the fortune that comes with all of that. This is like an early instance of that. So you obviously were set in the newspaper industry, but again, you could easily transplant this story to the modern world. So I think it's quite timeless in that way. Of this newspaperman who just sensationalizes a story to a point where someone is actually in genuine life or death danger. And yeah, really, Billy Wilder is the master of this kind of story. I think of this kind of satire. Obviously, we just covered a satire in the podcast this week, so I think if we ever want to go back to that, it's not a comedic satire, but it's still very much a scathing satire on that kind of industry. So that's a really interesting film. I think it'd be very good one for us to cover. And finally, if I was to name one more, I'd say All About Eve, which is a film I've wanted to watch for a long time.
Yeah,
never got around
class
to.
film.
Have you seen it? Yeah, so Joseph L. Mankiewicz obviously directed that. Haven't seen it, but again, I really have wanted to watch it for a long time. So great opportunity.
Marilyn Monroe is a very small cameo in that as well.
Nice.
It was very early in her career.
Nice. So yeah, if there's a few that I'd love us to watch at some point.
Yeah, I would love to cover Some Like It Hot, obviously. Some Like It Hot is
Class.
so amazing. It's a film we've both seen, but I think it's like one of the films that a lot of people think about when they think about classic cinema, I feel. Shane obviously has the poster behind him there. It is a film that, like, most people, like, it's so iconic. Directed by Billy Wilder. You've got Marilyn Monroe. The poster's iconic. Jack Lemmon is so class, as is Tony Curtis, like, as are the rest of the cast. It's just in the best way possible, it is like a stereotypical, just classic Hollywood comedy. In regards to, like, when I say classic, I don't mean old. I mean, like, one of the best. It's perfect.
Ahead of its
Vertigo,
time as well. Sorry.
Yeah, so ahead of its time, particularly with the ending. I love the ending.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite endings to a comedy film.
Yeah.
Vertigo, again.
Yeah, class.
Got to talk about Hitchcock. Vertigo has to be covered on this podcast at some point. It's too iconic not to. Another Wilder film, I'll say, Witness for the Prosecution.
Yeah,
I love that film
good.
so much.
So good.
I'm a huge Charles Lawton fan. I think he's amazing in every film. And him in his little monocle, so great. I would love to cover. I'd love to cover Godzilla. To be honest, you haven't seen Godzilla, have you?
No, not the original.
No. Yeah, no. It's very good. It's very obviously, it would be an interesting double feature with this, if anything, because it's a very clear commentary on the nuclear bomb and how it impacted Japan. Yeah. But obviously, instead of a nuclear bomb, it's Godzilla. Very interesting. The Night of the Hunter is one of the greatest thrillers ever made.
So good.
Gotta shout out one of my favorite performances ever from Robert Mitchum, but just one of the best, one of the all-time best. And he was a bad boy of old Hollywood because he smoked the weed. As well, Dial M for Murder is a Hitchcock film that I always inadvertently don't give enough credit, because I always forget to mention it in challenges. But it is an amazing film that I love. I really like The Big Heat. I really like Pick Up on South Street. I really like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Yeah. I really like Niagara. I really like Ikaru. I really like Scrooge. I really like Harvey. And yeah, two maybe more two more underappreciated ones. I'll say Winchester 73 is such a cool film about this gun, this like iconic gun. Jimmy Stewart's in it. That basically everyone wants it, but as soon as anyone gets it, their life goes so south because everyone wants it. And it's like you attain this thing that you've basically worked for, but now that everyone else is gunning for you, your life changes, but not in the way that you wanted it to.
Like the Elder Wand from Harry Potter.
Very much like the Elder Wand from Harry Potter. Huge inspiration for the Elder Wand, I would say. It's the gun to beat all guns, is the Winchester 73. Class film. And Gun Crazy is also a 50s film that I really want to cover. One of the goats, John Dahl from Rope. If I see anyone from Rope, I'm always like, yes, I will support you because I love Rope so much. But John Dahl and Peggy Cummins, go on the Irish, star in this film. From what I've heard, it's a lot like Bonnie and Clyde. I haven't seen Bonnie and Clyde, but it's like Bonnie and Clyde, but if Clyde had a conscience and regretted all of his actions. Basically, this woman, played by Peggy Cummins, convinces this man, Bart Tarr, played by John Dahl, to start robbing banks and shops with her because she, up until she met him, she was the best sharpshooter she ever met until she met him. And he's like the best sharpshooter anyone's ever seen. So she kind of manipulates him into a relationship so that the two of them can go around robbing places. And at first, you know, he thinks that they're not killing anyone, but what little does he realize just how heinous some of the crimes the two of them have been committing. It's a really great thriller. Absolutely love it. This Gun Crazy. I'd love to cover that on the podcast. They're all ones that I have seen. I could touch on a few that I haven't seen real quick. Yeah, I'd love to do East of Eden. Martin Scorsese always said it's one of the best looking films ever. Like, it's one of those films you need to just watch on as big a screen as you can. And I have it on 4K, so I will watch it eventually. I haven't seen Touch of Evil. Really want to cover that. I haven't seen The Bridge on the River Kwai. Again, that's a bit of an epic that I really want to see. Dracula, starring Christopher Lee. I haven't seen somehow. Don't know how I haven't seen it. Asphalt Jungle is a film I really want to see that we haven't covered. Ben-Hur is like a really important film, I feel, from that time. It was a monster success. Limelight is a film I really want to cover. It's one of the last, supposedly I haven't seen it, it's one of the last great Charlie Chaplin films about a silent actor who at the end of his career realizes that his career is fading and he's a bit of a has-been. I think it's it's quite a self-deprecating film from Charlie Chaplin. Limelight, it's meant to be very good. The Searchers, I don't know how I haven't seen The Searchers, because I've seen a fair rake of westerns, most of the iconic ones, and somehow not The Searchers. I don't know how. As well, Johnny Guitar, just such a cool name for a movie. I wanna watch Johnny Guitar, so of course I'd be happy to cover it. I've never seen High Noon. I've never seen An American in Paris. I've never seen Animal Farm. They're all films that I'd happily cover on the podcast. The Lavender Hill Mob looks like a good fun crime caper that I'd like to cover, because I feel we don't cover many English films. Another one that's class that it is the 50s is The Ladies Killers. The Lady Killers is 50s, isn't it? Yeah, that's it. That's good fun. I really like that film. And last but not least, I'll leave you with one more, and I will say Hobson's Choice, because Charles Lawton is class, and again, it's one that gets referenced quite a bit in the Criterion Closet. A lot of actors and directors will regularly say that Hobson's Choice is a class film. So yeah, they are a few films from the 50s that I and Shane would love to cover on the podcast, love to talk about on the podcast. But please, let us know what you want us to talk about on the podcast. Let us know if out of those there's any that you want to talk about or want us to talk about on the podcast. And then, of course, just give us a few recommendations that we haven't said. We both have Letterboxd, both of which are linked in the description of every episode. So feel free to check out our Letterboxd, because you can see what we have and haven't seen already. If you want to give us a few recommendations or a follow over there. We both review films more or less every day on there, so why not give us a follow? But yeah, in the meantime, Shane, we have a new arc on our hands. A man with a pretty cool voice and an even cooler gun. Who are we covering next month?
Yeah, we're going to be covering the original 007. We're going to be covering Sean Connery's Bond movies, his 1960s Bond movies, starting from obviously Dr. No, going all the way through to You Only Live Twice. So his 5 appearances as James Bond in the 1960s. Funnily enough, I have never actually seen a Bond film outside of the Daniel Craig era. I know it's absolute blasphemy that I've just said that. I know, but
Missing out.
That's true.
So much fun.
So, like I say, do you know what? Right, I was in. It was actually HMV, the big HMV in town there a few weeks ago, 3 months ago even.
Yeah.
And I saw the 25 film box set from James Bond, and I think it was like €100, €120, whatever it was. I was like, gee, this close to buying it. In the end, I kind of bottled out because of the price. But yeah, I probably should have bought it in the end because I've been wanting to binge them all for a long, long time. So look, this, if nothing else, this kind of arc will perhaps give me a reason to actually do that, to actually properly start ticking off.
I think, because obviously I'm a big physical media person myself, I think the Bond films are almost like the epitome of why physical media is so important. Because the Bond films regularly get put up on Prime and taken down from Prime, and half of them are up, and then half of them get put up, and then the other half get taken down. It's so hard for Bond fans to watch all the Bond films. It's so hard to actually do a binge of them. Physically owning them, obviously, that'll never be a problem for the rest of your life.
That's true.
So I think the Bond films are actually definitely a key example of that. Another one will be Star Trek. Like, I have all the Star Treks now, because it is impossible, at least in Ireland, to find them on streaming anywhere. Or at least to find them on streaming for somewhere where they're up there for long enough that you can then binge them all. But yeah, no, I've seen a good few Bond films. I've probably seen more than half of the Bond films. I've seen a lot of Connery's ones. He's a class Bond. We aren't covering the unofficial Bond film from the 60s with Orson Welles, and we aren't covering the George Lazenby Bond film, which, hot take, is one of the best Bond films. He is the worst Bond in one of the best Bond films. It's so annoying. Nothing against George Lazenby, but if Connery was in that film, Her Majesty's Secret Service, it would probably be my favorite Bond film. He's so uncool in such a good film. But that being said, we're covering Connery. Yeah, as Shane said, we're doing 5. We're doing Dr. No, From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, Thunderball, and You Only Live Twice. So they are the 5 Bond films we will be covering. If you want to see us cover more Bond films in future, do let us know. I've never seen I always call it the Orson Welles Casino Royale just because it's funny that he's in it, but I haven't seen the Casino Royale film with Orson Welles in it. But that is just, I love films like that. It's just a real interesting part of history that even exists. That there's an unofficial 60s Bond film that Orson Welles is in. But if that's a film that you'd like to see us cover at some point in the future, do let us know as well. But yeah, Bond month. So looking forward to it. And next week is Dr. No. But this was Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. I've been Harry Bailey.
I've been Shane Maloney.
And that was the Golden Era Film Podcast. And we'll see you all next week. Goodbye.